Morning. I'm going to do an insight video today. I woke this morning and I was given like a vision of like a car, and I was trying to put like fuel into it, and I was putting the wrong fuel in. And when I was putting the wrong fuel in, I had this kind of feeling that something was communicating, something was telling me about it. So I woke up this morning. I'm vegetarian, so I eat and I go to the gym, so I eat a lot of protein, but I don't necessarily eat a lot of vegetables. So the first thing I felt when I woke up this morning is like I need to get more vitamins, more minerals into my body. So I've got like vitamin tablets, or so like everybody's got like lying around. So I pop one of those in, and then drunk that down. So there's two parts to this sort of like message, and the message is sort of like telling me about sort of like not putting the right sort of stuff in my body, and that's affecting my energy. So my energy then is lower, and I have got no fuel to go. So it's like a physical thing. But the purpose of this sort of explaining this little message is I've had two instances in the last couple of days where the universal law of inspired action has been at play in my life, and I think it's good to give like practical examples of this. So the first one was yesterday. Was I was just sitting here, and I just done a reading, and I was opening up to sort of like receive some communication. I had uh, this sort of like the law of one come into my head, which is like a universal principle, but it's not even a principle. It's more than that. It's creation itself. It's creation itself. So I'll start to talk about that. But the other one obviously was the one I was just talking about there, where I was talking about this sense of the universal law of inspired action is about your higher self communicating with you, and giving you insight and understanding, because the higher self, although it's like this infinite being of light and energy that's connected to the source and creation, it's also connected to your physical body in this lifetime. And the higher self is sort of like when you're able to connect into your higher self, then you're able to connect into that aspect of self that gives you communication, and they can start to sort of direct and guide your life to the purpose of why you're here and why you've incarnated. But it also connects to sort of like receiving guidance, the fact that the higher self is connected directly to the source, and it's your source um, energy, and it connects you to your source energy. So it's really important to sort of like connect to that. And through meditation, people talk about the higher self and the infinite self. I like to say the infinite self. People say higher self, but I say infinite self. I've had experiences over the last few sort of like weeks where I have like a white being that steps forward behind me. I say a white being, but it's like this energy that's got a vibration of light, that's dressed in white, has a lot, like long hair and like a long beard. So long hair is energy, um, beard is wisdom, and then you've got like white, which is purity and pure consciousness, pure awareness, pure understanding. But it's also like white. White is one of the highest frequencies you can get, and I know that now when I see this sort of like this, I have this impression or this vision. This is like the higher self stepping forward and coming into my energy and guiding me, which is really important to start to connect to that higher self, because the higher self, when you're able to sort of like move out of the physical and expand your consciousness so you connect to your higher self or your infinite self. I like to say infinite self, so I'm going to stick with the words that feel right to me. People use our higher self, but I like to use infinite self. So the infinite self steps forward, brings this consciousness, brings this understanding, brings this knowledge and this wisdom to connect you to your purpose, but to also to help in this physical reality. And again, this connects to the universal law of correspondence. The universal law of correspondence is about being in your source energy, and when you're in your source energy, you're opening up your channel to your infinite self. And this infinite self is like a multi-dimensional being that is still sort of like connected and aligned with source energy and source creation and the infinite realms of life, but the infinite sort of beings of light and the infinite collective of light that can bring this information and this energy down. And this is where we're going at the moment. This is the shift in vibration. This is the shift in frequency, and this is what a lot of the kind of information that I've been talking about over the last few weeks is starting to align and come into into unity. Again, unity is a really important word. There's lots of things that have come through this morning, like the law of one is about this. You know, everything is one vibration. Everything is this one creation, this one source energy. Nothing is separate from that. Everything has access to that. All beings have access to the law of one. The law of one is that there is no separation. And this law of one goes through all things. You know, it goes through time, it goes through space, it goes through anything. There's no distance. There is just this. The law of one is just that there is a source energy, and there's like this source energy is like connected to this creation, and we all have access to this creation. Like we all like people talk about like the creator, but the creator, the source, the great spirit, they're all the same thing. You know, it's all part of this source energy. Um, to me, and this law of one is really really essential, and it's a teaching that I feel like, I remember reading a book like a good few years ago, and there was a seeker, like a man that wrote this book, and he was seeking about like Atlantis, and he come through, and it come through sort of like the law of one or something that was around that. And I feel like I've been taken back to this book, and I feel like the law of one is very much around like Atlantis, and around that vibration of Atlantis that was resonating on the planet like hundreds of thousands of years ago. You look at Telos, where people talk like Mount Shasta. It's very much connected still into that Atlantean and that Lemurian sort of like vibration, and that's an important thing again, because the law of one is that they're all vibrations, all frequencies. Whether they came before or they're still here. They're still part of that law of one, the one vibration. They're still part of source creation and the creator in that way. And sort of like we're all part of that creation. We all have access to it. So to me, it's like nothing's lost. Like people say the lost, times of Atlantis or the lost continent. Like nothing's lost. In source creation and in the law of one, everything is still interconnected. Everything is still there. So the vibrations and the frequencies have always been here. It's only when the level of the consciousness of the planet and the collective awaken to that level, do you access them again. And this is what's happening now, is we're accessing higher levels of consciousness, because we're actually, the vibration or our consciousness is expanding and connecting again, because we're opening up to source of energy and the source of creation again. And this is what the guides doing. This is what the masters doing. This is sort of like the teachings. I feel again comes from universal teachers, but again the Great White Brotherhood with the ascended masters and the universal teachers. But again, they're all part of one, and we're part of them in that sense, because of that creation, that source energy that's in each and every one of us. We're part of the law of one, that we're all connected. There is no separation, and this is the major teachings that they keep wanting to sort of like push through to me. There is no separation, and this is like the game changer for like spiritual evolution, that when you understand that, that there's always access. There's access to everything. And again, this connects to like, when people talk about Akashic records, and they talk about people say Akashics are like Akashic records, and I've always seen them, and whenever I've had like, because my whole experience is about light and energy, and it always has been. I see color, I see things like that, and I vibrate in that way. So for me, it's like the Akashic records are libraries of light, and they're light vibrations, they're light frequencies of energy, of all creation, of all experience that has ever been. And some people's purposes and some people's journeys are and evolutions, and their purpose is to come back and to explain these Akashic records to individuals. But for me, it's like they're light libraries of infinite sort of like spiritual realities and spiritual sort of like creation. And again, they're part of this source energy, which is the one, the law of one again. And that there's so much in this vibration of the law of one. And again, this is what has been happening to me over the last few weeks, and it's happening to lots of us at the moment. And this is why I do these videos and I do these insights, is because we're all going through them, and we're all going for this shift. But again, I've said this in many times before, and again I feel I need to bring this up again. It's like, um, you know, a lot of us go through, so like, say for me, like I've been through like spiritual journey, my spiritual evolution and my spiritual journey. And again, I've just talked about like consciousness and about the vibrations and the frequencies that always been here. And sometimes we get stuff that might not resonate with other people, and they may not resonate with people at that time. But all of that is part of a process of creation that is starting to expand and is starting to manifest. So you'll have things in your life that you will see, and they don't seem to fit in that time, in that space, at that particular moment. But what's happening is the blueprint's being created. The blueprint's being created for a new sort of like reality. This is what I feel. This is what is being said to me, because through my journey, through my life, I thought about things in a different way, and that, like, when I look at spiritual evolution and just look at spirit, I can see the links, and I can see like the bigger picture with things. And like, I always feel like when spiritual sort of like essence or communication comes through, it's very much around sort of like going to the source of it, going to the seeing the picture as, as big and expanded as it can. And at that, in that time, some of that has sort of, as I've grown up, I haven't necessarily always been able to, resonate with people, because of that's the way I see it. But this is what it's, this is what I feel the information and the guidance is saying. And I said this to a good friend, Sue, that my friend Sue, that I talk to regularly. And we were sort of like working together like 10, 15 years ago, and the stuff that was coming through didn't seem to fit in this time, and it didn't seem to resonate. But that's the new blueprint, that's the new aspect of creation, that's the new vibration coming through. And this is what's happening now. When you go back to Atlantis and Lemuria, that they were vibrations and frequencies that were very much connected into the law of one. And this is what I feel I'm being guided and I want to talk about today. The law of one is this notion that creation, source energy is everything is connected to that, and we're all in that source energy, and we all have access to it. And again, this is about, again, trying to show us the infinite sort of like energy, the infinite light, but also the fact that we're connected, we're not disconnected, there is no separation. And again, this goes to many things. This goes with like changing states of being, where we're shifting from one conscious state to another, and then a new reality, a new sort of like vibration and frequency opens up. And this is what the masters talk about, because they talk about it in this way, because they're here to shift and evolve the planet, and align the planet. But it's all coming back to that law of one. That law of one is so important. It come up in like the universal law of inspired action yesterday. Again, this is talking about that infinite self. And yesterday, I was sitting there and I was just writing. I have sort of like in the past written, and they've communicated and they channeled through me, and I've written that things down. But it's always about creation. It's always about sort of like the spirit world or the soul or something like that. It's always been around. Bringing things back into unity, bringing things back into harmony, and understanding the bigger picture. But now I understand that that's all about the law of one. It's about that there's non-separation. None of us are separate, and this is what this time's about. As I was talking, I had like another being like step forward, but I felt that was like Serapis Bey as I was talking about this, and Serapis Bey was coming in to talk about like this ascension process, and the ascension process again is about oneness. And the oneness is again connected straight back to the law of one. And the law of one is the unity, it's the union of all things that are assisting and vibrating and being in one vibration, in one frequency, which is the universal law of one, which is the source energy. So the law of one, I don't need to necessarily say the universal law of one, it's the law of one. The law of one is everything, it's all things. So it's not separate, it's not disconnected from anything, it's just this one vibration of one frequency. And all beings of light and energy, which we all are, come from the source energy, and we're all born from that, and we're all connected to that, and none of us are ever separate from it. So whatever's going on in your life, whatever you're feeling, whatever's happening in your life, you are still connected. You are part of an infinite family, a union of light to this source energy, and you're not separate, you are part. and connected to the law of one. And the law of one, like I said, goes back to Atlantis. It goes back to this again, where we had like infinite masters and ascended masters that used to sort of like, use crystal chambers, use crystal sort of like, they create these crystal domes or crystal chambers where they would, you know, travel out of their physical bodies into the infinite realms, and they'd also have sort of like masters that would, manifest or would sort of like come back to the planet, and they would discuss, and infinite beings of light and teachers that would come. And that's because they were at a frequency, a resonance of frequency, where they were totally connected to their source energy. And their bodies were very different, because it's not physical bodies like this. They're very energetic bodies, energetic frequencies, energetic sort of bodies of light, which, they were very close to the source energy still, in that way. And that's that. But we still have access to that, even though we're in this physical body at the moment. But also that really, really important thing about like the higher self, and the higher self, and connecting into that, and allowing that, and opening to your source energy, and opening to your infinite self, that is still connected to the law of one, and connected to all the realities, all the dimensions, all the realms of light. And this is what this time's about. It's about us awakening, having the awareness and the consciousness of that again. And the more we do that, the more that our physical bodies will then be activated to more light frequencies, and the more we do that, the more we start going closer and closer to the source. But what we do is we vibrate, and we're vibrating a different frequency, and that frequency then will align with the planet. And then when it aligns with the planet, it will shift and create the vibration and the frequency on the planet that will allow us to be open, to integrate and bring in more of that light of and that energy of the source creation and the source creator, to back into this law of one, which is where we were in these really highly evolved spiritual cultures. But remember, the law of one, everything is always available. Nothing is not accessible. So, don't think, the Atlantis is in the past, and don't think spiritual evolution's in the future. They're here now, and we've all got access to that. And that's what the beings want to tell us. The beings want to tell us about this. They want to give us this insight, this understanding, that we're all part of the law of one, and none of us are separate. So don't feel alone, don't feel isolated. You can't be, because you are part of a whole of this law of one, where we're all we've all got access to our source creation and our source energy. And that's what the law of one is, that we are all an infinite family. So don't look at anybody, and think they're different, or that they're all part of the same. That we're all part of the same. And again, this is the source energy in physical sort of like, reality is unconditional. Now, I don't want to use words love. I don't want to use things like that, because I think, again, what we do is, if you stick with unconditional, you're going to the source. You're going to the highest expression of that. When we start to look at love, and we look at other things, they are reflections of it. But what we do is, when we start to dilute something, then we start to reduce its vibration, reduce its frequency. And this is why I feel like, with like the law of one, why it's been given is the law of one is this infinite vibration of source energy, and each and every one of us are here to open up again, and express source energy in its essence. And this is why we're here, and this is what they were doing in the spiritual cultures, not before, because they're still here. So I don't even want to say in the past, because they're not in the past. They're still, the vibration, the frequencies are still here, and the information, the wisdom is still here. And all we have to do as a spiritual collective is to shift our consciousness, and then we will have access to that infinite knowledge and infinite thing, and because it's always been here. And again, this is the union. This is the unity of light. And again, this connects to the spirit world, and the law of one is very important again in that, because it's about, again, the ascended masters aren't something that you seek or go to find, in that sense, because the ascended masters are connected to all of us. They're overseeing us. The great universal teachers, the great infinite teachers of the infinite source are all around us, and are with us in every moment and around it, and we can access them. And again, we've been talking in many sort of like in spiritual evolution about all these this kind of like ethereal realms and things, and the fact that, you know, they're out there, or they're somewhere else. They're connected, they're still here. The law of one is that all source creation is accessible to all. That's how you're born as a spiritual being. So masters are not far. They're here. They're connected. They're part of your source energy. And when you open to your source energy, then you have access to all universal teachers, all infinite realms, all the archangels. And you also have access and come align and come back to your infinite self, where you are part of that law of one. So that's the insight for today, but it's a really, really important one. So resonate, think about that, and sort of like, please, if you have any questions about the insight or the information that was given today, please just, you know, put something in the comment box, like and subscribe. Check out my Facebook page. I'll put a link down it, you know, underneath. My Facebook page is Spiritual Insight and Awareness, same as the YouTube channel. Go and have a look on there. If there's anything you see, or any comments or anything, there's other videos on there, like a lot of videos from a long time ago. Go and have a scan through. Any sort of questions, anything like that, any insights that you have, you know, you can even sort of like give me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have a great day. Remember, you're not separate. You have access to everything. You're an infinite being of infinite possibilities, infinite opportunities. You are not limited, and you are not separate. And this is what the law of one says. And I'll leave you with that thought.